What's up, guys? It's Jim with OPTCG, bringing you guys another One Piece TCG sim video today. And today we have a very fun video planned with the finally new edition of the new starter decks coming out. There have been a lot of meta-breaking cards dipping into the meta. I made a couple videos on that meta shakeup and the starter decks themselves, so you can go check those out. I will have those linked in the description if you do not know what these new cards do. But if you did not already see on screen right now, we have one of the new leaders that benefited the most from these starter decks and actually won a 30-man flagship, and that is going to be Red and Blue Marco. So this list got a lot better with a couple additions, namely being this 7-drop Newgate, which is going to, for 7 Dawn, give you an 8k body that gives your leader a rested Dawn, obviously immediately putting Marco effect online. And then every turn, you can turn this card sideways and then KO one of your characters or your opponent's character with the cost of 5,000 power or less. Which means, obviously, on curve on 7 Dawn, you can use leader effect minus a, say, 7k power character by 2k. It's usually going to be a 6k power. There's not a lot of 7k powers, but yeah, you'll reduce that by 2k down to 4 or 5, and then boom, you pop this on curve, KO that. It's very, very strong. You can also play it off of a 9-drop Sanji, which is very good as well. But other than that, we have the new 5-drop Rush Ace. This card is nuts. It is one of the only cards in the game that can prevent removal from not only KO effects, but any KO effect at all. So just if this were to be removed from play by an effect, you know, bottom deck from law, whatever else, this is only going to get minus 2k power. So your opponent definitely needs to play with this in mind, and it is a 5/6 body with Rush. This card is very, very strong and a great card to play on curve, especially if you're on 6 Dawn. You can do leader effect and double swing into, say, something you just minus by 2,000 power, right? So really, really strong additions that allowed this deck to pull one out, and I don't think it's really won many flagships before that. I'm assuming it's going to win a lot more in the future with these additions, and hopefully it can make a real difference in the meta. But I'm going to go over this list really, really quick. We actually have no searchers. We are just running a bit of the Whitebeard Pirate stuff. So Jozu for the Surprise Rush. The Marco blocker, you pretty much always want to run this if you're a Whitebeard Pirate leader. And the 5k Marco just makes a whole lot of sense with this leader. But obviously for running this, we need to run a lot of events. So we are running the Fire Fist, very, very good against decks like RP Law, which is usually with leader effect, always going to KO like a 6k and a 5k. Very good. The Zero Cost event, which is just going to get rid of the multiple bricks we have in the deck, as well as extra events or whatever else that we don't need. And a target for Marco as well at the end of the day, so really good there. Or even just a Fire Fist if you need another event to get rid of out of your hand. We have one 2-cost Fire Fist, which comes in handy a lot of the time with a few of our characters, like even like a Rayleigh, if we needed a big power reduction. And then, you know, we have a lot of discard for a 4-life leader, so we do need to run 4 of Sanji's Pilaf in this list. This is really necessary since you do tend to run on low on cards a lot of the time in hand. And we actually are running 2 of Gravity Blade, which I think is a great tech option into the meta, right? If we play a Sabo, none of our KO effects were going to work. So now this is online against RP Law. It's just a very, you know, efficient, no-brainer removal to remove 2 good, decent-sized bodies. Just a great card all around. Everybody knows how good this card is. So we are running 2 of in this deck. Then we are also running the Sanji, as we mentioned earlier, which is just a no-brainer with the Marco leader effect, paired with the 8-drop Rayleigh, which I'd say is one of the best cards in this deck. Just the removal ability with this guy compared with the ability to cost or power reduce characters and just leave them like that so they have a lot less menacing swings is very, very strong. And then last but not least, we have 3 of Pudding, pretty much like a no-brainer staple in every blue deck, and then 4 of Don Quixote Doflamingo, which is just a great blue card and our only blocker other than Marco in the deck. Going to set up a lot of stuff, even like a Sanji on 9 Dawn makes us so we do not have to use leader effect. We can just use this like the turn before and then guarantee Sanji on 9 Dawn curve, right? So very, very strong deck, and really looking forward to seeing what this guy is going to do in the meta. We do have a CS this weekend that I'm looking forward to watching, so hopefully there could be a Marco on that. But with that being said, We're going to run this guy into the current meta decks that are kind of tearing out the meta, and maybe even a new deck as well, to see how this guy fares. But let's go ahead and get right into that. All right, and we are going to be going against a red and purple law player here. Looking at this starting hand, I really don't know if I love it, to be honest with you, but we do have the Pilaf on 3, so I think we are going to choose to keep this one, as well as the Sanji for the later turns. Immediate misplay, I always forget you could use Marco Leader Effect on one Don. You know, it's kind of counterintuitive because you actually can't, you know, utilize that Don to attack, so I never think about it, but, you know, definitely something you want to do if you can. But we're just going to peel off on 3 and go ahead and pass to our opponent here. So for Don, he is going to rip 2 cards with the Law. He got Otama and Rayleigh, which honestly, I don't think is too bad for us. Also taking down a Don here. If he does have the Black Maria, it's not that big of a deal. Even Chachi Penguin isn't terrible, and he's going to choose to not attack, which is a little bit interesting. But from here, I think we're just going to go 1 for our leader effect. From there, thinking, I kind of like every card in this hand, so I'm just going to place this on top for next turn because, you know, there's nothing to utilize it right now. We'll minus his blocker. And from there, just swing 7. So this is either 2 cards out of hand or this is a block. And from here, we will start placing top. We want to see this next turn. And then we'll be on 9 Dawn. So we will be drawing this and getting this out. So pretty solid future for us. That is why Dofi is pretty strong in this deck. And the 3-drop Doflamingo is actually really annoying to deal with. Like, the Law is probably the best way to get rid of it, but if they're forced to use a Gordon, it's actually really annoying. So gonna get another Chachi Penguin out, keeping up in Dawn here, but not really keeping up in hand size. We're gonna take the first one and then counter out of this one. So that's gonna be that, and I think this turn's pretty much a no-brainer. We're gonna Newgate on the leader. The new card going into effect right away here, giving minus 2k power after a leader effect. We are going to actually place this back on top since we already know what is on there. We're just going to place this because we will not be using it, right? You want to keep the counter in your hand. And then we'll minus power here, going 6k into 3k. There's just no way you're countering out of this. And then we will do Newgate effect, KOing his other character there. So pretty solid for us. You can see the power of this card, especially playing it down on curve. And leaving our opponent with not a very menacing board, to be honest. And only 5 Dawn to use, so going to go 5k lead. Pretty much always want to counter out of these. Definitely want to save the counter for the bigger swings here. He's going to go 7. We could counter out, but I think we're just going to choose to take. Oof. I think we have to do it. Even though we set it up, I think there's no way you don't use that trigger, unfortunately. And he does play the pudding here into 3 Dawn right now. I think the scariest card, yeah, I was going to say that as he plays it, is going to be the Kid and Killer. So we will definitely give him a 1 and a 2. And then going to go onto us. So going to probably go for more of a starve strategy at the moment in time. That is a pretty good draw, actually. I think this is the better card to play this turn, so we're going to go ahead and place this on top since we want to play it next turn, and then we're going to subtract the power here. Definitely just going to swing big, 7 into 3, not do anything about that. We will swing 8 at lead, and then with the rest of our 7, get rid of these 2. So in a pretty solid spot, especially going into our next turn. And again, on 5 Dawn, which is really not too scary. Obviously, could do some like double Kid and Killer shenanigans and make us give a whole bunch of counter, but hopefully not going to be doing that. That is going to be another Zoro, which is a bit scary, truly, into a Raise Max, probably into another Gordon or something like that. Yep, which is exactly what that's going to be. And minusing here, and into a Kid and Killer. So yeah, ooh, we get another peel-off trigger. That is pure skill, ladies and gentlemen. If you've never seen it before. So what we're going to do now, we're definitely going to play this out. So we'll just place this on top. minus Kid and Killer and swing 6. This has to be double 2K or it is going down. And then we will be dropping the Sanji into the blocker and placing these guys. I guess we'll do this on top. We'll do this since we probably want to see it next turn. And I think that order is probably fine, and we will go ahead and pass to our opponent. Already played 2 Kid and Killers down, so the odds we have a third one are pretty low, and I think that is the only way you can really put a whole lot of pressure on right now. Getting out 2 bodies off of Sanji is always very strong. So going to go 5 and 6. We will just go ahead and counter out of those. And playing into the blocker, that is pretty much exactly what you needed, but with leader effect here, it's not really going to do a whole lot. Question is, I know what we're going for, and that is, yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to go ahead and place this guy on top, since we don't really care what we're drawing into next turn, and then from there, we're going to pop both of these guys with Fire Fist, and then from there, going to go 6-2 leader. This requires a 2K from hand. That is actually going to be a 2K, and from there, I could attack, but I'm actually going to stall and pass to him here. So, because if one of these was a Kid and Killer, we'd be in a pretty rough spot, especially if he had the Gordon to bottom deck this blocker. So what we're basically doing is just giving him limited resources and going to be waiting to go for game on the next turn, which means, no queen, no kid, no blocker in general. This game's pretty much over. Reiju is a really good card here. If you can draw yourself into 2 more cards, can make this a little more hard to deal with. But I think you really just need the blocker. That's the only way to really win in this situation. So question is 5 Dawn right now. If we take, and then this is literally the perfect cost reduction into Kid and Killer, we're dead. But the odds he has that after dropping 2 cost reducers and an Otama and 2 Kid and Killers out of hand, I don't know, it's pretty low. I think it's more likely this is 5 Dawn for a blocker, so I'm going to choose to take. And then from there, leave it to the cards, and there is the Raise Max. Do we have the Kid and Killer full skill gameplay? Nope, he is not going for the blocker, so that's most likely not a Kid and Killer. If it is a Reiju, and boom, just like that, we will activate Ace Effect. Our opponent is not familiar with Ace Effect, that's why this card is so good. Any removal is completely negated by this guy, so for that, we are going to go 5K to leader. 1 card in hand, a 7K gets it every time. And then 2 9Ks is going to finish this one right up. And that is going to be the game. And getting into our next game here, I really do like this opening hand. So I think we're definitely going to keep, and we're not going to make the same mistake we did last game on that first turn. Definitely going to utilize our leader effect going first. And looking at this hand right now, question is, do we not want any of these cards? And I think the answer is yes. I could be wrong here, but I'm going to go ahead and bottom deck this. I don't really see a turn with this curve, at least, where I would want to play that. So I'm going to actually get rid of him. And Lucci is going to start off with no stage and 1 Tempest Kick, which is always what you love to see. So we're going to go 5 to leader here. He is going to take. That is pretty standard for Lucci. And then getting the peel off on our 3 Dawn turn once again. Very, very good for us. So now in 4 Dawn, this is going to be a 5K swing. I think it's probably okay to take here. But, Lucci, Lucci's not the most aggro deck ever. Like, we could be playing into an Isho a bit, but we'll deal with that later in the game. And that is going to be a Borsellino. So a little scary here, but I think I know what our play is. We're going to go ahead and use leader effect. Yeah, well, I don't think we need 2 of these, so we'll just put that at the bottom, and then we're going to go ahead and go 6K at his leader. He's going to actually choose to block with the 4K blocker, and then we'll just drop a pudding, turning that 7 cards into 5. getting a character out on board as well, which is honestly not bad. You know, pudding usually doesn't swing in a lot of other decks, but in this deck, you know, with your power reduction from leader effect, you can turn it into a viable swinger and even like a 7k body. So I think pudding is a little bit better in Marco than a lot of blue decks for that reason. I'm going to go double Spandam here, getting a Who's Who and a Tempest Kick. So Trash is at a really good spot for our opponent here. For the 5k swing, we are going to have to give a 2k right now. And then for Dawn, going up here as well, you could do, that is going to be a Tempest Kick, probably into a Brook if I had to guess. Yep, there is the Brook. And now we are on our 7 Dawn turn, which we do have the perfect curve once again. So going to use Marco effect. I don't need 2 of these, so I'm going to bottom deck this one. And minus the Brook. You know, that minus didn't matter, but we're still going to KO it. And we're going to go ahead and go 6k to his leader. He is going to take, which kind of makes me think no 2Ks, but I could be wrong. You do want to play around puddings, but we did already play one, so there is a chance it's not that good. So if he does have leader effect plus Tempest Kick plus Jack here, this Newgate is a goner, which is why this is really good, because it gets the value off right after you play it. And then if he cannot remove it, we are in probably an even better spot, honestly. So, bit of a weird spot. But I think we are going to get rid of this right now. And there is the Moria. Do we have... I think you need a Meppo and Trash. I don't even think Meppo gets rid of it, yeah. So, pretty good spot as our Newgate is staying on board. That is not... that's not going to happen too often. And I think I see what our play is this turn as well. I think we can flex, actually. So we're going to do this. We're going to see what we draw. I'm going to go ahead and place this on the bottom. I'm not seeing a spot where we're playing it at the moment in time. So from there, we're going to go 7. See if our opponent decides to take or not. He is going to go ahead and counter out twice. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I could have actually killed this Moria with the Newgate. I would have had to play an Otama out of hand, but taking out the AK would be pretty big. So maybe that was a misplay. It definitely could be. If it was, I do apologize. But I think what we're going to do right now is probably just go aggro. So here's the 8k. Swing 8. This Borsa blocker is a lot worse when you turn it into a 4k. And then we're going to go another 8k from Ace. Again, this Ace needs to be removed twice. Obviously, you can attack into it after the fact, but the fact that you need to do that is really annoying. And just is going to be the main power of this card. So I'm really glad we're getting to show off these new starter deck cards as real threats in this deck for sure. He is going to get the Ice Age this turn, which, you know, definitely means, oh, double Ice Age. Okay, our board is gone. There is no doubt about that. And yeah, there is the double removal. However, right, now we can use Ace, and that is going to save him, right? He is at a 4k, so obviously pretty easy to attack into. But if our opponent was planning on using 4 Dawn, right, and we give him a 2k here, which I think we are going to do, that forces a Moria attack that does now not go into leader. So really good for us here, as he does play the Rebecca down. And I think I know what we're doing as well. He does draw the Jack, which means we know that one of these cards in hand is not a counter. So we're going to do this, and we're actually just going to go 3 on leader. Use leader effect. We definitely don't need this with this hand, so we'll get rid of that, and then we're going to go ahead and go 8 into 7, give us a 2k. He does have the 2k, and that is going to be the turn there. So he is going to go 9. I'm just going to take here. That's obviously a very large swing that is not easy to deal with. Oh, and following up with an 11. So putting us in a little bit of a rough spot here. This card is interesting, but there's no reason to trigger it out. And there is the Borsellino to follow it up. So pretty much no doubt what I'm going to be doing this turn. We will be going for this. Can we do that? Yeah, I think we can. Yeah, I think that's fine. So we'll go ahead and draw a card here. We will place you on the top. We will be dropping Moria by 2k, and then playing out the Sanji, deploying the new gate, attaching that to leader once again here, and then now we have 7k to 7k, so we will be going 7k. We know one is a non-counter, so if he blocks with a Borsa here, that means both are non-counter, most likely. And yeah, there it is, passing back to us. So opponent could try to go for game here, but with 7 cards in hand, it's a bit risky if you tap out, right? 3 cards in hand, if you don't drop a blocker and just go all in, there's a very good chance, you know, this massive board is going to end you on the next turn. So a bit of a gamble, but let's go ahead and see what our opponent decides to do. I'm thinking, like, if you have the removal, you probably want to go for it. But if you don't, it's probably okay to just kind of go all in. But here, we're definitely going to go ahead and counter out of that one. Another 9 coming in. There's no rushers in this deck, so this is definitely just going to be a take from us. There is the Tempest Kick on the new gate, and the Jack coming down. I'm not sure about that. I think I'd rather get rid of the larger body if we're scared to die in the slightest bit. But let's go ahead and see what we get off the top here from Marco. Oof. Definitely don't need that. Okay, there's a lot of lines I could take this turn, so I'm just gonna think for a second. Huh. 2 cards in hand though. We could go for it. I mean, I don't think there's any way we remove both of these guys. Yeah, that would just be way too many cards out of hand. And then we would have to play a blocker at the same time if we wanted to, not die. So I think we are going to go ahead and go for game right now. Let's just do the math. So that is going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 7. Okay, so in that case, we're going to go ahead and start it off with a 7k swing. Opponent is going to choose to take. Dropping the Jozu. Going to go 8. Hopefully we are taking here. He does take, which means this 9 might go through. However, we could have been waiting. And yes, that is going to be no counter in hand. Marco takes down Lucci and Law, which is very good for this deck, and I think a really good sign for the future. So let's go ahead and get into our last match. And getting into our last game here. This is a hand I'm definitely not going to keep, especially going first. This is, I'd say, interesting hand. However, Marco has the great ability of bottom decking cards you do not want to see. So that is the power of cycling every turn, right? That's why Sokka was so strong. And our opponent playing the new starter deck cards here. The new Marshall D Teach 2-drop is going to always guarantee leader effect, which is absolutely terrifying. So we're going to go 1 Dawn for leader effect, just see what we get. I don't think we need 2 of these, so actually, we're going to go ahead and place this on the top as it is not a counter card. And then I think we're just going to go ahead and swing big. So it's going to be an AK swing. Little bit of a greedy move by me there, but that is why I'm him. So we're going to go for that. He is going to play the Buggy. Look at the top 3, and then place them in any order. So this is just like, this is the new Perona, basically, is how you can look at this card. It's a 2K, unlike Perona. However, it is only the top 3, which, is not that big a deal. And it is also a target, right? Perona was never a target for leader effect. So if you saw it off of leader effect, it was really rough. But our opponent is getting the Jinbei into Weevil start here, which obviously is never what you like to see. But we do have a solid play this turn, so we are not in a bad spot yet. So with this hand, oof. I like it and I don't like it is the problem. And we're playing this next turn regardless. So I think you know, especially with not another event in hand, I'm gonna have to bottom deck the Fire Fist. We will go ahead and swing 6 into 3 here. There's really no way you counter out of that. And then we're going to go play the Pudding, which means that top 3 just got a little bit screwed up. So he does not have the Guarantee Leader effect. He can still do the Marshall D Teach with, you know, whatever got added to that hand. But Pudding just, you know, really going to disrupt Dofi and put him in a really rough spot as well. 4 life to 3 life, and we are 1 up in hand, so not in the worst spot ever. His board is undoubtedly better than ours, especially with the fact that that could drop 2 Restodon, and unfortunately here, we are going to have to reveal to our opponent that we do not have any 2Ks in hand. Since we know the 7K swing is coming, we by no way can be taking that 6K swing under no circumstances. So that is going to be Marshall D Teach effect, which is going to make this an 8K swing into a Jinbei into another Weevil. That definitely hurts. But at the very least, we can utilize the very strong effect of this great card, Whitebeard, right here. And what we are going to do is definitely bottom deck this. We don't need too many of those. Question is, what do we cost reduce, or what do we power reduce? And I think that's going to be the Weevil. Again, what I was talking about earlier, the Pudding, making it really good to actually KO these cards. So now swinging 6K into 4K. This requires 2 cards out of hand right now. However, if you do have it, I think you always give it. This board is like way too threatening, especially when I have 2 life, but looking like he doesn't. So from there, we're actually going to go ahead and KO the Moria. We actually don't want to KO the Jinbei because if you play another Moria, you can grab it from trash and replay it from hand. So for that reason, I always like KOing the Morias because it's an option you cannot re-pick back up. So at this point in time, opponent is running a little low on cards in hand. So if you want to use the Marshall D Teach effect, you're going to go down a lot, right? Unless you have another Weevil, which would be honestly pretty rough for us, right? Another 6K that draws a card is never what you want to see. So we are going to give the 1K for that swing here. Fortunately, drew into a 2K, so we're going to counter out of that one as well. And he does have the Boa, which is actually not the biggest deal in the world for us. And that is because Newgate can still use his effect, right? You can attack, but we can still actually turn him sideways, which is pretty solid for us. And he's actually going to choose to go at Leader, not at Pudding, which is probably the right play, right? With this board, I think going aggressive is just always what you want to do. And drawing this, I think, kind of just seals what we're going to do this turn. So going to go ahead and give minus 2K to... Question is, we can go boop boom, and then, yeah, we'll do that. So go ahead and draw a card. We can go ahead and place you on the top. Probably want to play you next turn, and then we'll go ahead and give this Jinbei minus 2K. From there, we're going to go ahead and swing. Yeah, we'll swing 4. We'll go 4 into 3. So if you don't have a 2K, in a little bit of a rough spot for sure. But he does decide to give us the 2K. That is completely fine. Kind of wanting to bait it out of hand there, not going to lie. Now going to go ahead with the Newgate effect. We will go ahead and KO the Mihawk. And then with the 7-drop event, get rid of the last 2 threats on board here and go ahead and pass to him. So pretty good spot for us. The versatile removal every turn of Newgate is just very, very powerful. Opponent at 2 cards in hand, so probably going to start needing to put on a little bit of pressure. You could argue that we might have wanted to attach 1 to Pudding, put a little bit more pressure on that Jinbei. But if we did, we might not have taken out another card. So he is going to go 10. We do want to take this 10 here. With 4 down remaining, it's really not too scary if he wants to attack with that Teach. So at that point, he is going to drop the Crocodile. So we cannot take a 15K swing, obviously. So we need to drop a blocker. There's no doubt there. However, we have a pretty solid play for that. So let's go ahead and do it. We're going to drop the Doflamingo. Actually, we're going to drop this first. So we'll drop the Newgate. buff leader. And then we will go ahead and minusing the Mihawk after using leader effect. So from here, question is, do we want, we definitely don't want this card. We're going to get rid of Pudding. Minus 2k to our Mihawk here. Gives us an easy swing with Pudding. And then we can turn both of these guys sideways, swing 6, and follow it up with a blocker. Allowing us to also know what we're drawing into next turn. Interesting top, and I think we're gonna need to see you, so I'm gonna do that. Probably want to draw into more counter here, so we will probably do that as well. So obviously Dofi does have removal, but I think like the best removal this deck runs is like 7 cost, which means you know, at that point you only have 3 Dawn left to swing with, and if you want to use leader effect, it's gonna only be a 7k swing. So not in the worst position ever. The Boa is going to come down, which means we have a very scary body to try to deal with. And also attaching Dawn to lead, which is going to make this a lot harder to counter out of. But with double Newgate on board, there's not a lot of board states that we can't deal with. So let's see what we can do. 6 Dawn remaining. That is going to be the 11k. Dropping down the Moria. And most likely grabbing a 2k off of that guy. That is going to be the Mihawk. So we will block there. And now I think we know what the play this turn is going to be as well. So we're going to go ahead and use leader effect. We will draw 1 card. We knew we were going to draw into that. And then we're going to go ahead and place this on top. And then minusing the Boa Hancock by 2. Do not want that doing any shenanigans. Now going to swing 6k into the Moria here. We know he has a 2k, but it is not too big of a deal. And then from there, we are going to turn this one sideways, KO Boa, and then we could, I guess there's no reason to attack into it, right? Because, I mean, there is a chance he has double 2k. I don't think he does, but this is like basically the same as an attack, right? Turning it sideways and doing that. From there, we drop the Sanji into the Doflamingo, and then these guys, honestly, I don't like, so I'm going to bottom deck, and we are never going to see those again. So now passing to our opponent here again. When he does drop into the unblockable event, there's not a lot you can do about that. We'll give him all the counter we have, but I don't think it's enough. So that is going to be our games for today. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the final deck list. And that is going to be the video, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching. This deck list is a lot of fun, and I'm honestly really looking forward to playing it in OP08. Only thing with this deck is I don't think it's as good, right, without these starter deck cards. It's a lot better after you can add these to the deck, as you saw by today's gameplay, especially the 7-drop Newgate. This guy was, like, pretty much made for this leader. Obviously, you know, made for other red decks and stuff, but it's the best in this leader, there's no doubt about it. So maybe we'll be waiting until the starter decks come out to actually play this guy in person, but a lot of good games today. As you saw, we actually were able to take out an RP Law and a Lucci, which is like a good sign for this guy, right? Like, hopefully we have a meta shakeup, because OP08 is not really looking great, to be honest with you guys. Probably the most boring meta yet, so I think, at least from today's testing, obviously didn't play against the best players of all time, but definitely a good showcase for the deck and good things in the future. So with that being said, you guys have a great day. This has been Jim with the Awakened TCG. I'm getting the head out of here.